Coming back to the point of signaling and social proofing, Vijay, um, and I'll put you a little bit on the spot there. I want to share a challenge or a dilemma that I see a lot of immigrant founders face. Right. So, look, a lot of these folks have not gone to Stanford. They've not gone through a Google or a Meta here. They might have gone to an IIT or an NUS, right? Like whatever is like a good school in their own home country. They don't necessarily have street creds here, right?
Yeah.
So now how do you? It's almost like a cold start problem, right? I mean, this is not you can't get these creds. You can't like build them up in like 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So especially as a coach, I mean, I'm sure this is something that you have spent a lot of time on because this tends to be very discouraging. A lot of immigrant
Yeah.
founders, right? Like you almost are starting with your kind of shoulders drooping, saying that, look, hey, I stand no chance against this ex-Stanford YC person or an ex-Stripe mafia person, right? In this ecosystem. So, and I want to kind of make this more behavioral, more from a mindset, attitude perspective. And then second is also like more just tactically, as a coach, like how do you advise an immigrant founder to sort of deal with this?
I think there's a lot of people who are in this situation, and it's very common to then feel discouraged. I think the most important thing is that people take a step back and understand what makes them different rather than what makes them the same. So there is apparently a sort of signaling box checking exercise of, YC, you know, this engineering university or this like business school or X um, you know Magnificent Seven type of tech company, when in fact your individual story needs to be extremely compelling. So what makes that true? Well, to make it very compelling, it needs to be, and this is a word that we overuse a lot, authentic. And what I coach people on is asking, a lot about who they are, explaining their why. And maybe sometimes this is the first time they've done this themselves. And I actually do this with emerging venture investors too. Just start with like, who are you? Why is what you're doing matters? What is your dream? And these seem like very esoteric questions. But unless you kind of know the answer, all the other stuff is not going to actually resonate because people can see you're just saying a bunch of like words about, disruptive and AI and this and that and, the right like SaaS words about efficiency and so forth and the rule of 40 when in fact you've got to just like have a great like purpose. And so when it comes to mindset, refining your purpose is really important. Now, if you can refine your purpose and you can say a lot about what makes you different and why there is extreme founder market fit, and you are one of the best, if not one of the most exceptional people in the world to be building this business, then it's obvious. And then, people don't get hung up on whether you went to, as you mentioned, Stanford or IIT or NUS or maybe even a university no one's heard of, because there's just something obvious. Many people will not remember the universities where a lot of the best founders in Silicon Valley went because it didn't matter by the time they had built enough either authority or social capital in terms of what they needed to be able to build their business, and that therefore we get into a very good situation where people understand, oh, of course, right? Someone's building this business or building this particular venture firm because it is such a part of his experience and only he can understand it. And this will be true when you're angel investing, is that, right? Because angels in particular are investing in something they want to see in the world. The chances of fantastic returns are such a long shot. So at the very least, it's something that they care about, believe about, or understand. And so either you care or believe about that first and foremost, and they can see it very obviously because they can spot a fake, or they understand the space well enough to know whether or not you even belong there. Is really important. So that is uh, the the essential and maybe part of the lesser talked about aspect of this is extreme authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, so well said. I think a lot of immigrant founders don't appreciate enough this whole kind of vibe in Silicon Valley, which is never underestimate anyone, right? I mean, I think each of us has gone through many jobs, companies, investments, where there was some intern who then turned out to be kind of the founder of Figma, right? And I mean, there are enough of stories, and I mean, I've seen that myself in startups that I was part of, right? So, and I think there is obviously there is this whole kind of narrative around street creds and mafias from particular companies, and I mean that's what the media kind of highlights. But at least my experience has been that people who have been here for a while, and these could be ex-founders, these could be VCs, angel investors, executives, even like early adopter personas within companies. I think a lot of these people were probably in your same shoes, 2 decades or 3 decades back, right? So they know better to not underestimate anyone, right? And this actually plays to your advantage. So then, if that's correct, then your only job is to kind of stand out and cut through the noise, right? Because there is going to be this noise that's going to be there on Twitter and by the media, and which is where kind of that power of kind of storytelling comes in, and how do you really put your story across in an authentic way